Brace for impact, sweethearts. Some visitors come bearing honey-sweet words and venom-tipped arrows. Chapter 22. Poison. Darcy stood frozen in the doorway, her mind blank of everything except the predatory grace with which Claire occupied the space before her.
Don't you have a plane to catch?
Maya's voice cut through the silence, sharp as ice.
Snowstorm cancellation.
Claire's smile widened, all perfect teeth and practiced charm.
It's lucky I hadn't left the lodge yet.
She moved forward, forcing Darcy to step back as she glided into the cabin.
Such a cozy little space, very artistic.
Her tone made artistic sound like a child's crayon drawing hung on a refrigerator.
You can't just...
Maya started.
Oh, but I can.
Claire settled onto the couch like she owned it, her camera placed deliberately on the coffee table.
Someone needs to explain a few things to our comic artist here. About Callum. About what he needs.
Her eyes fixed on Darcy's tablet.
About reality versus entertainment.
I don't.
Darcy began.
He still wakes up screaming sometimes.
Claire cut in, her voice gentle as a knife.
Did you know that? He dreams about that little boy's hand going limp in his. About the sound the building made as it came down.
She leaned forward.
Tell me, how would you draw that? What clever little speech bubble would capture his grief?
Maya took a step toward Claire, but Claire wasn't finished.
You make pretty pictures of pretty moments. Turn pain into punchlines. But Callum? He lives in the spaces between frames. In the darkness, you can't capture with your pastels and your safe little panels.
She picked up Darcy's tablet, scrolling through the latest comic with elegant disdain.
He needs someone who understands that darkness, who's walked through it with him.
Someone like you?
Maya's voice dripped with sarcasm.
Someone who won't run when the nightmares come. When he can't look at a camera without seeing rubble and blood.
Claire's eyes never left Darcy.
Someone who knows how to handle his trauma instead of turning it into content.
Is that what you're doing?
Darcy found her voice at last.
Handling his trauma, or feeding off it?
Claire's perfect smile flickered.
Excuse me?
Rose told us about your visits. How you show up whenever he starts to heal. Whenever he starts to...
Darcy's hands clenched.
To move forward.
Rose doesn't understand.
That you need him trapped in that moment with you?
The words burst out before Darcy could stop them.
That you can't bear to face those ghosts alone, so you keep dragging him back into the darkness to keep you company.
For a moment, something raw and wounded flashed across Claire's face. Then her mask slipped back into place.
You think you know him because you shared one kiss in the snow? Because he smiled at your little jokes?
She stood, gathering her camera with deliberate care.
I've seen Rose's posts, the moose incident, the tree cutting, the cozy little breakfast moments.
Her voice took on a mocking sing-song quality.
The way he caught you when you fell. The candlelight at dinner. That staged little moment on the observation deck.
Each moment landed like a slap, reduced to surveillance to evidence.
Wait until the first time he wakes up screaming that boy's name. Until he can't look at you because you represent a future he doesn't think he deserves.
Her fingers tightened on her camera.
The cute little moments Rose captures for Instagram, they're just that. Moments. Frames frozen in time. But I was there for the real story. The ones that didn't make it to social media.
She moved to the door, then paused.
He'll come back to me. He always does. Because I'm the only one who truly understands what we...
Get out.
Maya's voice could have frozen hell. Claire's smile returned, sweet as cyanide.
Of course. I'm sure you have a missing cat to find. Though I wouldn't worry too much. This place has a way of bringing lost things back where they belong.
The threat in her voice was clear as crystal. After she left, Maya locked the door with shaking hands.
Well, she's terrifying. She's right.
Darcy sank onto the couch.
I don't know how to handle his trauma. I don't know how to... No.
Maya sat beside her.
She's terrifying because she's wrong. Because she needs Callum broken to feel whole herself.
Outside, they could still hear Callum calling for Pablo, searching for something lost while his past prowled the lodge like a hungry ghost. Darcy touched her tablet, thinking of all the ways she'd turned real pain into art. All the ways she'd hidden from life by drawing it instead. Maybe she and Claire weren't so different after all. But there was a difference, wasn't there? Claire clutched her ghosts close, letting them poison every new moment. Darcy had drawn hers out, panel by panel, letting each stroke of her stylus transform pain into something else. Not just entertainment, understanding, not exploitation, but evolution. Every failed relationship she'd drawn hadn't been about profiting from pain. They'd been steps forward, each panel a way of processing, of growing, of learning to laugh at the darkness instead of drowning in it. She looked at her tablet with new eyes. All this time she'd thought she was hiding behind her art, when really she'd been healing through it. While Claire used her camera to capture moments and hold them static forever, Darcy's art had always been about movement, about change, about finding light in the shadows. Maybe she and Claire weren't so different after all. They'd both found ways to deal with pain through their chosen mediums. But Claire used hers to stay frozen in time, while Darcy's had always pushed her forward, even when she didn't realize it. Maybe they both needed to learn how to let go of their ghosts. But Darcy, she realized, already knew how. She'd been drawing the map to healing all along.